This is an instructional video on how to assemble your Duchess Gaming Table from BoardGameTables.com. The first step is to connect two of the corners, just with dowels for now. These two corners should share alongside of the table. Note that the bracket and armrest pieces both have numbers on them. Be sure to connect the numbers that match the brackets so the brackets will fit well later. Next, install the support boards. It can be a little tricky to get everything lined up. This is one of the many reasons we recommend two people for this assembly. The table is being assembled face down on a soft surface, so install the short support boards with the notch side up. Attach the fourth armrest. We will remove this armrest later, but installing it now helps keep everything square while we install the corner bracket. Since I'm assembling this table mostly by myself, I'm going to add two extra short screws in the corner and zip ties the corners together. This helps keep everything tight while I'm working. You can skip this step, but I've found it helpful. Installing the corner brackets is the step that people seem to have the most trouble with. First, screw the bracket into the long armrest. Then you are going to screw it into the short armrest. I like to line up the top outside screw hole first. It is very important that the armrest pieces are held tight together while you are screwing into the short armrest piece. You can place your foot on the opposite side of the table and push the long armrest into the short armrest while you are screwing it in. Use your second person to hold everything tight. Sometimes you're going to have to tilt or rock the armrest back and forth just a little to get things to line up. If you see a gap in the armrest pieces, stop and fix the gap before continuing to screw it in. It is very possible to do this step with a hand screwdriver. I've done it many times myself. However, it is much easier with a power drill. Check to make sure the armrest pieces are touching between each screw you put into the short armrest. If there is a gap between the two armrests, this is not because you don't have the screws tight enough. It is caused by the positions of the screws. You need to back out the screw and reposition the armrest. Then put the screw in the new position. Often the screw will want to go back into its original hole instead of the new position. If you have this problem, try putting the screw in at an angle instead. Now I'm going to attach the bracket to the other corner. Again, these two corners share one of the long armrest pieces. Through the magic of video, I'm going to do this corner much faster than I did the last one. Next, tilt the table up on its side and remove the armrest that isn't yet screwed into place so that you can slide the two baseboards into place. They slide into the grooves in the armrest. Note that the notched corner of the baseboard needs to go into the corner of the table and the countersunk side of the holes needs to face towards the top of the table. There is only one orientation that will work. As the second board is going in, you may need to hold the open side of the table so that it doesn't spread open and let the baseboard come out of the grooves. Screw the baseboard into the support beams. Normally you can do this while the table is still on edge, but I let the baseboards go in too far, so I had to lay the table down to line them up with the holes. In fact, if possible, screw the first baseboard in before sliding the second one into place. Now reattach the fourth armrest. In addition to the dowels lining up, the baseboard also needs to fit into the groove in the armrest. I am doing it wrong in this video. It is much easier to do this while the table is still up on its side so that you can push the baseboard into place. If you are having difficulty getting the baseboard into place, you may need to loosen the screws from the previous step to allow the baseboard to move more. Tighten those screws back down when you are done. Eventually, I remembered that I needed to stand the table up on side for this step. Unfortunately, that meant the table was no longer in the correct position to catch all the action. Two more corner brackets to install. It will be harder on these two than the first two to hold the armrest pieces together. We have several additional tips on how to hold the pieces together that minimize the gap between the armrest at boardgametables.com/Duchess/assemble. Once again, make sure the numbers on the brackets match the number on the armrest. Screw the brackets into the long armrest first. Make sure you hold the two pieces together tightly as you screw the bracket into the short armrest. When you are screwing the bracket into the third corner, make sure the fourth corner is staying in place. If the fourth corner isn't in place while you are installing the third corner, that means the third corner isn't square and it will make it impossible to install the fourth corner correctly. One person at each corner will probably work best, or use zip ties like I did. I recommend starting with the holes that are furthest away from the baseboard since they are much easier to access. Then come back and do the ones that are next to the baseboard, where it can be tricky to get your screwdriver into position. Using a long screwdriver or a long screwdriver bit makes it easier to get the proper angle on the screws adjacent to the baseboard. Finally, attach the legs. I need to remove my zip ties and their support screws first. As you are tightening the bolts, go back and forth between the bottom and top bolt. If a bolt is tight and then you tighten the other bolt, you might find that it causes the leg to straighten up a bit and the first bolt is no longer tight. The leg should be very tight and have no wobble to it. There is no need to keep tightening after the leg is tight. The Allen wrench gives you a lot of leverage and it is possible you could damage the leg if you over tighten too much. Attach all 4 legs in the same way. Now just flip the table over. Don't let the table rest on its legs while it's on its side, and try not to let the legs hit the ground as you flip it. Roll out the play mat and you're ready to game.